What is up, down, and sideways, you beautiful individuals? It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys, and it is a rare day, Mark, that is a W for North America. And you know what? You had more faith in the NA versus EU matchup than I did. Even though we both thought KC are the favorites, you had more faith, and I guess we now have to trust in you as our prophet and savior for North America as they keep the streak of 3-0s of the play-in stage alive. This was the one series that you thought that would not happen, and here we are.
You could see that this was a possibility, but it felt like a real distant one. But it is the reality that we live in. North America pulls through on the day and in such dominant fashion in a 3-0. And yes, there is a little bit of messy and sloppiness within that 3-0 to discuss still too, but absolutely unquestioned North America topples EU on the day. Let's go Team Liquid.
And let's go throw it Baron was the theme of the start of this series. Both these squads changing tosses down there. There was some questionable realm warps, some suspect Camille engages, especially the first game. I think maybe guys were warming up, getting a little comfortable, but seeing this first game, you're immediately thinking about the next match against T1 and going, oh, this ain't gonna be pretty.
It's a tough pill to swallow to realize in that moment, right? When you're trying to just focus on Team Liquid and KC, right? That's the matchup that you want. That's what you're seeing. But you know that the monster is waiting for you tomorrow. And you, of course, know the legend of T1 and what they have obviously done as a dynasty. Never mind what they are doing right now at this play-ins event and how they are performing. And T1 as a team, historically known for their plays, their creativity, their push around early Barons and everything else. You think that they're watching the fiesta around Baron in this series and going, oh, we've got something cooked up for tomorrow. Don't you worry.
And they're probably only watching the game because this tournament is in South Korea. Usually they'd probably be out sightseeing, but they're like, whatever, I guess we can watch some of these games. But second matchup of this series is, of course, where the absolute masterclass Jose Diodo has been their best player all year long, and we get the Lee Sin masterclass 13-0-8, 21 out of 23 kills he participated in. And even though Quid is 1-7 on the Yasuo, with this Lee Sin spoon feeding him ulties throughout the entire game, I'm pretty sure Quid only ulted on Lee Sin kicks this game.
This was actually pretty much outside of checking in on the all chat and what was going on in the comms, but outside of that, this was the solo queue Yasuo experience that everybody is familiar with, that running it down until one team fight comes around and you get set up and you can spoon feed somebody all these opportunities with, hey, there's that big knockup, there's the ultimate, there's the movement, whatever, and you get to capitalize on it. And that's the story here for Team Liquid. This is one of those ones where I think it is maybe a series of, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 drafts from Team Liquid, and maybe 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 type of drafts for KC on their side, and what you are leaving available for Team Liquid. And this one, the big story, as you pointed out, was that Lee Sin for Jose Diodo. You've seen the LCS for any bit, never mind the actual career of Jose Diodo that you would look into. You would know that this was a risk that you were taking, leaving this champion up. And it's a risk that almost nobody within the LCS is willing to take. And if nobody in the LCS is willing to take that risk, you probably should not have been taking that one as Carmine Corp.
Yeah, especially, obviously, Jose's best pick, most played champion of his career, and then you opt into the Jarvan, into that, which is already one of the worst matchups against his best champion, and the result is a 13-0 Lee Sin that dealt, by the way, the most damage in the game. He wasn't just KSing. I've never seen a Lee Sin jungle have the most damage in a pro game.
And probably the worst situation for KC heading down into that 0-2 hole in this series is that situation where not only is all that stuff going on, but Kalist has only one death in this second game. And
Yeah.
that is all it takes. And I'll tell you, anybody that's an ADC, they'll tell you what grinds their gears is having a loss on a game where you only die one or two times. And this is one of those situations for Khalees. And I think you can see some of that frustration in the third game performance overall for Carmine Corp, not just Khalees.
And I mean, especially when you're first picking this bot lane of Varus Alistair, which, we're more used to seeing the Varus Nico kind of dominate the laning phase. But you get, okay, this is what we want. This is what we're running into it. And you go 1-11-9. And I know game 3 was kind of the longest one, but it felt like the least close. KC never really had a chance in this game. It was actually controlled from Team Liquid. They weren't really taking, they didn't opt into taking risks because they didn't need to, even though the Kiana got fed at times for Yike. I mean, he gets completely starved out of vision. They can't contest a Baron, and a 3-0, as nobody was expecting. Maybe KC 3-0ing Team Liquid, but in this dominant fashion, and it's, again, big credit to Team Liquid. They absolutely played super well, and Jose Dioto, and I think you could throw Core JJ alongside him as the two standouts.
And no matter how confident I was or how much copium and hopium I could get my hands on in that situation, I don't think anyone was really going to the 3-0 for Team Liquid. You certainly would have had some respect heading into this one, where you would think that Carmine Corp could have pulled it off, and part of that is the equation of North America underperforming and falling flat at an international event. But this time, it's Carmine Corp that falls flat in this important matchup, in this key situation for them. And this is another one, again, looking at the frustration from Kalist in that second game. You go to this third game, and you try to set yourself up. You put that priority on that bottom lane. Well, great. You've got all these things. We've got an Olaf that doesn't care about any other protection that you've got, and we're just going to run you down. And when he's not done doing that, we got a giant crocodile, an LCK crocodile up in the top lane, taking you down. This was a frustrating one for Carmine Corp to close out this whole series in what is, again, going to be probably the most frustrating day in Carmine Corp's history. And that's saying, I think, quite a little bit given how things started for them in the LEC.
Yeah, being a bottom feeder for about a full year and a half. But I think I saw Cadril or somebody else saying this loss is worse than the G2 one against NRG. And now that one was a lot more high stakes, getting into quarterfinals of Worlds versus, let's face it, this is runner-up tournament for the play-in stage, because unlikely either of these were beating T1, as we've talked about. But the fashion that KC just kind of were never in this series, apart from throws from Team Liquid that prolonged the game, but Team Liquid kind of quickly took back control of it. And this is a KC team that was supposed to be right there with G2 in terms of competitive level, and getting 3-0 slammed by Team Liquid. They're not close to G2.
Yeah, it's difficult in some aspect for KC in regards when you're looking at this play-in event, and again, done no favors by how First Stand played out and the situation where you do have the second seed from the LCK, which an LCK we all knew had a three-headed monster, and take your pick of that three-headed monster between, whether you were going to throw KT, D plus Kia up into that category, but what it really was, of course, is that Genji, T1, and Hanwha Life. T1 and Hanwha Life representing at MSI, and yes, having T1 there makes it a difficult thing within this play-in stage, because yes, you take care of business against Deep Cross Gaming, but of course not shown to have a ton of teeth or a ton of legs at this event. And then you get this one against Team Liquid, where you don't get anything in your favor, on top of as well how things went against T1. This is a difficult result to stomach for the Blue Wall, for the LEC. This is going to be an embarrassing one. I don't know if I would go to the degree of NRG, just due to, again, the significance, the weight that gets put on a world championship run and where it happened in it, that type of situation. absolutely a ton of pressure on G2 to show up and be the G2 that they have been throughout the LEC, and the G2 that we saw at first stand that was able to topple Gen G. That's going to have to be the type of quality that we see from G2 now, or else it's going to be a very disappointing MSI for the LEC.
And unfortunately now, like, you can throw in KC. We've seen MCOY. We've seen Fnatic. These squads not named G2 internationally, you can't take them seriously. That's what we're working with. The body of work over the last couple of years in Europe. If you're not the G2 Samurai, you've had disappointing international runs. And, I mean, losing to T1, not a big deal, obviously, at this event for KC. But this one is egregious. And now for Team Liquid, I think you're in the green. You're happy with the tournament. You're proud of the boys, regardless of how things now play out in the rematch against T1.
Yeah, and especially because nobody, even with how great today was, is going to have the expectation that you will take down, you will topple a T1. I don't think anyone even has the expectation realistically that you'd get to 2 games, 2 wins, a silver scrapes even type of scenario against T1. I don't think that is the direction people are going. But what we have seen so far from Team Liquid, the way that they have handled themselves, improved, gotten sharper at this situation, and gotten key contributions from guys like Quid, like Morgan in that top side, and of course, Jose Diodo coming through big time in this series. These are things that we haven't quite seen to this degree or as online like this in the LCS even from Team Liquid. So this is absolutely them peaking at the exact moment that you would want to. Is that peak enough against T1 is, of course, going to be the interesting question, and whether they have something prepared and up their sleeve, I think, is really going to be the question for me, because, again, you got to come with some type of interesting angle, something that changes the playing field, because that playing field, it's not even. It's not fair when you are staring down someone like T1 on the other side as Team Liquid.
Yeah, it's still comes down to, even in great form like Team Liquid is in, T1 needs to have a full circus on display for them to lose a series. But I will say, I'm giving Team Liquid a game, and we can't have an entire play-in stage be 3-0s. Come on, you got to at least get a game, TL.
I am pulling whatever type of mojo, hopium, copium, mix them together, throw in a little bit of seltzer water, whatever. I'm mixing it all up, and I'm trying to get us silver scrapes. Just 5 games. Give us the drama for that last spot into the main stage at MSI. That's what I want to see. I think also you can look at this matchup and say, out of this series against Carmine Corp, Jan and Core JJ, maybe a little towards the pedestrian side, but still a very strong and synergistic showing from the two of them. The problem is the buzzsaw as well on the other side with T1 in that bottom lane. When you identify in not only the creativity and playmaking that is coming through from Kyria right now, but just the raw damage that Pays is throwing out there, and his positioning so far has been picture perfect for T1. Very much so going to be a big challenge as well in that bottom lane for Team Liquid.
Kind of feels like Jan and Core JJ went up against the Magikarp in this series in the bot lane, because they weren't world beaters, but they were beating somebody spamming Splash. And now next up, you're like, oh, dang. It evolved into the Gyarados now we're dealing with.
Yeah, this is a different ball game you're stepping into at this point. But I think this is one of those ones, again, need to have that type of preparation, that different type of edge that you can bring through within Fearless Draft and your own play styles is something that I think you got to be bringing to this table. I think even T1 is probably not leaning towards leaving the Lee Sin up for Jose Diodo, or at the very least snatching it for themselves and letting Owner get a masterclass on that champion.
Yeah, and I think Owner's pretty good on the pick. I got to double check if Jose Diodo has a world skin for Lee Sin. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, obviously Owner very proficient on that one himself. But yeah, we'll see what the pick band looks like, and just a competitive series is enough to save this entire play-in format combined with this mega upset from Team Liquid over KC. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, absolute gorgeous individuals. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you on that flippity flip.